And these people wonder why we say what we say. Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, actress Morfydd Clark decided to speak up after she told people that didn't like how this Rings of Power show of theirs was an insult to Tolkien. She told them to shut the fuck up. And she keeps on running her mouth. But this right here from Inverse, what she told Inverse, has got to be the dumbest thing. Tolkien was a really complex person who wrote a really complex world. That part isn't dumb, that's actually correct. Morfydd Clark tells Inverse. And this idea that anyone could know exactly what he would have wanted or what he would have liked is, I feel, nonsense. Well, Morfydd, is it? Sound like a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. But you think that that it is impossible to know what Tolkien would have wanted or liked, right? Well, Exhibit A. JRR Tolkien torched the Lord of the Rings film treatment for being treated carelessly, recklessly, and showing no evident signs of any appreciation of what it is all about. So, in letter 210 to Forrest J. Ackerman, Tolkien did not hold back his criticism of a film treatment, and it gives us an idea of what he might have thought about Amazon Studios' Rings of Power. So, I'm covering this again, folks, just so I can actually provide Morfydd Clark some context that we actually do know what Tolkien would have liked and would not. He wrote, if Mr. Zimmerman and or others do so, they may be irritated or aggrieved by the tone of many of my criticisms. If so, I'm sorry, though not surprised. Tolkien was a gentleman, after all. Tolkien went on to explain the apology, but I would ask them to make an effort of imagination sufficient to understand the irritation, and on occasion the resentment, of an author who finds increasingly as he proceeds his work treated as it would seem carelessly in general, in places recklessly, and with no evident sign of any appreciation of what it is all about. Gee, it's almost as if he knew that this was also going to be done in the future, because this seems to be speaking volumes about what the Rings of Power is saying. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Anyway. Next, Tolkien makes it very clear that canon should be respected, no matter what the medium is. Whether it be film, show, theater, adaptations should be accurate. The canon of narrative in any medium cannot be wholly different, and the failure of poor films is often precisely an exaggeration, and in the intrusion of unwarranted matter owing to not perceiving where the core of the original lies. This basically is saying that if you're going to try to adapt my stories, you need to put in all of what I have wrote. You need to inform the audience of my story. Not how you perceive it, but how I wrote it, is basically what he is saying. He also took issue with Zimmerman reducing the story to a series of fights. He has cut the parts of the story down which in characteristic and peculiar tone principally depends, showing a preference for fights, and he has made no serious attempt to present the heart of the tale adequately, the journey of the ring bearers. This was when, back in the 50s, somebody tried to do an adaptation of Tolkien's work, and it failed miserably, because they were more focused on the fights, not the journey of the ring bearers. So Tolkien went on to claim that Zimmerman murdered the story, writing the last most important pan of this has, and it is not too strong a word, simply been murdered. Considering all of what Amazon has changed in Tolkien's work, or rather their interpretation of Tolkien's work, which is a very poor interpretation, I think it's safe to say that this letter can also really be a good response to Morfydd Clark and J.D. Payne and the other people who are responsible for making this travesty and insult to Tolkien. But yes, one of Tolkien's criticisms of the treatment was also a contraction of time. Something Amazon Studios is doing in their show. Yeah, so you still think we don't know what Tolkien would have wanted, or whether or not he would have liked your show, Morfydd? Showrunner J.D. Payne explained a decision to contract the timeline in Rings of Power. If you are true to the exact letter of the law, you are going to be telling a story in which your human characters are dying off every season because you're jumping 200 years in time, and then you're not meeting really big, important canon characters until season 4. Well, if that's the case, maybe you should still follow what Tolkien wanted. Tolkien criticized the contraction of time in the treatment, writing, "Here I may say that I fail to see why the time scheme should be deliberately contracted. It is already rather packed in the original, the main action occurring between September 22nd and March 25th of the following year. The many impossibilities and absurdities which further hurrying produces might, I suppose, be unobserved by an uncritical viewer. But I do not see why they should be unnecessarily introduced. This must naturally be left vaguer in a picture than in a book. But I cannot see why definite time statements, contrary to the book and to probability, should be made." Basically, he is telling you everything that the times, or from the time span to the events inside those time spans, is important, and you should not contract them because you take away from the importance, you take away the event altogether, because now you are dealing with things that take place centuries apart and in which other characters are a part of that story, so you're taking them out because of it. The story needs to be told in sequence and in length, because otherwise you are not adapting the work faithfully, and it is a very poor retelling. While discussing the use of lembas in the script, Tolkien expresses what he would resent perversions of his character, or of his characters. "I do earnestly hope that in the assignment of actual speeches to the characters, they will be represented as I have presented them, in style and sentiment. I should resent perversion of the characters, and do resent it, so far as it appears in this sketch, even more than spoiling of the plot and scenery." There's a reason, folks, that Tolkien sold the rights of Lord of the Rings, movie rights, for $1. Because he was absolutely sure, and this holds true to this day, that nobody would 100% faithfully be able to adapt his work in film. Peter Jackson did a very good job at trying to. However, he fell short when he made some changes. like Arwen being in place of Glorfindel, rescuing Frodo, and many other things as well, like Aragorn killing the mouth of Sauron. He never did that in the books. That was a decision made by Peter Jackson. And therefore, Tolkien would have said, you may have had good intentions, but these changes should not have been made. Just saying. The justification for this new personality, as opposed to the one in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Silmarillion, is that she's thousands of years younger. Oh, I seem to have skipped a part. The Rings of Power made it clear they do not intend to pervert Tolkien's characters. In a puff piece to promote the show for Vanity Fair, Prime Video revealed that they are radically altering Galadriel's role, as well as her personality. She is described as the commander of the Northern armies, as well as being angry and brash as she is clever. The problem with that is Galadriel was actually born before the First Age, so by the time Rings of Power is to take place, the Second Age, she has lives of experience in comparison to humans, which means her wisdom and her intelligence is far beyond that of mortal man. Tolkien also appeared to be a stickler when it came to details. For example, he criticized the way the treatment depicted the staircase leading to Orthanc, the tower controlled by Saruman the White. He wrote, the spiral staircase weaving around the tower, Orthanc, comes from Z's fancy, or Zimmerman, fancy not my tale. I prefer the latter. The tower was 500 feet high, and there was a flight of 27 steps leading to the great door, above which was a window and a balcony. He wanted his work faithfully adapted, Morfydd. So yeah, your character is not Galadriel. She never will be. I think I have proven enough, not having to go all the way through this letter, that if you think, Morfydd, that it's nonsense that people can know what Tolkien would have wanted or what would have liked, well, I direct you to letter 210 of JRR Tolkien. Folks, that's going to be the video. You all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think of Morfydd Clark, Amazon's fake Galadriel? What do you think of her stupidity? Because that is what it is. It is stupidity. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below, folks. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble, because we all know that Amazon and Morfydd Clark are not.